I rise today to talk about what took place in the Goldfields on the weekend. It was the second year that I took part in these events, and I have to say I had an absolute blast. So the weekend's festivities began on Saturday morning, where we took off and drove to Menzies, which is 132 kilometres from Kalgoorlie. Meanwhile, going past about 100 push bike cyclists on the road who were racing in the Menzies Cyclassic. Really great event. Cyclists come particularly from Perth, but all around Australia. And they come across there and they ride from Kalgoorlie to Menzies. Believe it or not, they do it in about 4 hours. I did it in about an hour in the car. It was pretty comfortable. But when we got there, it was really good to see. Menzies is a very small town, doesn't get too much events come through there. Well known for Lake Ballard, which is you go through Menzies and head off up to Lake Ballard. But when we got there, there was the finishing line. All the kids were on the street having a blast. There was St John's ambulance there with the sausage sizzle going. There was a few blokes in the pub having a few drinks. And it was pretty lively, you know. It was really good for the town. It's very well known for giving Menzies a bit of a day, and that's exactly what it did. It didn't disappoint. Probably the last kilometre, over the radio it come through that every year the A-grade riders, who obviously leave a lot of time after the rest of the grades, overtook them just as they were coming into Menzies, which makes for a huge spectacle. And you see a real good race to the end. There was a good sprint finish, and everyone had a great day. So after that finished, I caught up with the Shire President, Greg Dwyer, and Jill, and we were heading in there for the presentations where they hand out jerseys for the event, for the sprint leg, and also who won it. But while we had some time, we also popped out to Niagara Dam, which is somewhere I'd never been before, which was about 40 k's out of Menzies. Went out there for a look and have a look at a bit of the history. And it was quite amazing to see. There was a heap of campers out there. It was quite lively. And then we went on up the road to Kukini Pub, which I'd heard plenty of, but I'd never actually been there. And there's still the horse standing at the door. I think his name's Willie. And he was quite feisty. He wouldn't let us in the door for a bit, but we got past him. He did try to take a bite. He did miss, luckily. But we got in there, and there was a couple of tourists that had flown in on their plane, and there was a couple other people that were staying there camping. A lot of history around mining in the place. A lot of people there were talking about mines that had opened up and closed down, and how it used to be really lively in Kukini, with the train would come and pick them up and take them to the Leonora races and drop them back. Obviously changed quite a bit now. It was quite slow, but they were expecting a lot of tourists coming through from the Cyclassic staying there that night. I went back to Menzies, and of course the Shire put on an awesome feed for the cyclists in the hall. All volunteer work done by friends and family in Menzies, and it was really well accepted by the cyclists. There was a DJ Rev, I think was the name of the act, that was up there doing line dancing, which I didn't attempt to do, nor did I attempt to cycle 132 kilometres. But it was a great night, and then we headed on up to Leonora. So the other event that's held on the Sunday is the Leonora Gift. It's in its 17th year up there in Leonora, and it's an amazing event. It starts off with a really good breakfast at 7 a.m. up at the Gwalia mine site, which is at Hoover House, just out on the lawn, where all the runners come up and all the community members come up there and they get to mingle. And it's a really good event. And then it goes into the day. And look, this year I was really happy to see there was a huge focus put on the kids. You know, we have athletes coming from all around Australia and the world here for the gift, which is the most prize money for a mile run in Australia, by the way. So it's very prestigious. But in previous years there'd been attempts, but this year it was evident that they'd spent, I think, about 4 weeks with the kids at the school, educating them on what it is to be an athletic runner, and got them doing all the sprints and the starts and all that sort of stuff going. And it was really about the kids this year, and it was very clear that the patron, Chiara Rodingas, who's won the event there 7 years in a row for the 120 metre sprint, has put in a lot of work. She's also a Leonora local, that's where she come from. And she's a super quick sprinter now who's right out there and quite big in the sport. But she comes back to Leonora and gives back to the kids there to try and build them up and show them that there is a role model and a way to get your goals. And it was amazing to see all these kids getting around. One of the kids, I think he was about 12 years old, and he entered in the open mile, which is a mile race on the main road of the gift of Leonora. And Giovanni was his name, and he entered with no shoes, and he had his Lakers singlet on. He's about this big, and he's 12 years old, and he come fourth. He was unbelievable. The absolute hard work he'd put in, and he was a little bit shy about doing it, but Kiara had built him up to that, and he ran in it this year, and he also won an award for being someone who embodies the good sportsmanship, which was the Steve Monaghetti medal, which was excellent. Steve Monaghetti obviously also ran out there in the gift, which gave it a real boost back in the day. But yeah, it was unreal. He was getting around with the open men, so grown athletes, and he come fourth, which was phenomenal. I'll quickly just read out 12th. And I think he's got quite a big future ahead of him, that's for sure. Give him a pair of running shoes, he'd probably double his time, I think. But no shoes. So I'll just announce the winners. Obviously, in the elite mile, we've seen Stuart McSwain in the men's and Georgia Griffith. I think there was someone from America, New Zealand. They come from all over, as I said, for the race. The 120 metre final, which Kiara races in, she lost this year by 0.2 of a second to Laura Story, and Aaron Breastland won the men's. In the Masters Mile, there was a Kalgoorlie local, Dean O'Brien, who took that one home. And also in the open mile winners was Rodri Simmons and Zoe McCann. Really great to see them running. I've never seen anything like it till last year, you know, people running on bitumen. But it's a real spectacle, and it's something that doesn't happen very often. And in the Cyclassic, the Community Challenge winner was Matthew Fulgrave. The Chase Egan Memorial Menzies Classic winner was Brett Stapleton. The Leonora Golden Wheels winner, Theo Yates and Amanda Narby. Huge congratulations to all the athletes that took part in the event. Massive congratulations to the Shires. Greg Dwyer out at Menzies does an amazing job there on the event. I think Peter Craig does an awesome job in Leonora. They also managed to secure Pete Murray as the music event on the Saturday night, which we missed by 5 minutes, which was disappointing. But Pete Murray also played in Kalgoorlie on Australia Day, so I think he's getting doing a bit of a tour of the Goldfields, which is great. But it's a great night, you know. There's food vans out on the street. These things don't happen without sponsorship. And there's a few sponsors that proudly sponsor it time and time again. Lottery West, Tourism WA, Monara Resources, St Barbara Limited, Saracen, Creative Spaces and the Kalgoorlie Miner. So I'm looking forward to this event again. Straight after the event finished, we also headed back to Kalgoorlie because WA Day was the following day. So I have to give a shout out to the Kalgoorlie WA Day at the museum. If you haven't been, please go. It's an awesome day. You can abseil up the side of the A-frame at the museum, and you can also come down and get some blueberry pancakes that we put on for local charities. We did it this year for the Flying Doctors, and it was a great success. So if you haven't been out to the Goldfields, there's plenty of things to do, and I recommend you get out to the Gift and the Cyclassic next year.